So, first and foremost, tell us about who you are. For people
Hi,
who,
my name is Kenna. I'm originally from Photoshoot, Montana. I now live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I am a model and self-taught clothing designer. And yeah, I actually kind of started out my journey with Eileen, and she's been a big part of it, especially throughout my time in Montana. So yeah, I'm just excited to talk a little bit about my experiences in the modeling industry.
all right, let's see, you've answered the second question of what do you do? So, how long have you been modeling for?
I've technically been in front of the camera for about a little over 4 years now, probably about 4.5 years. But I really only have been doing it full time, taking it super seriously for the last year and a half. So I kind of feel like just doing photo shoots doesn't fully count. So yeah,
Yeah,
and then I've started making clothes the beginning of this year, so a little less than a year.
yeah, and you're really grinding through both of those. Really
Thank
great. I
you.
love seeing it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Is there anything that surprised you about the modeling industry?
All of it. I never had anybody that was really in the industry in any capacity that was close to me. Being in a small town, it was a dream that I've had since I was a kid to be a model. I remember watching the Victoria's Secret fashion shows or watching Miss Universe and those kinds of things, and just aspiring towards those dreams. But since I hadn't seen anybody that was anywhere in proximity to me doing that, I didn't even know where to start. And I remember begging my parents, please, let me become a model, let me do pageants, let me do these things. And they're like, we don't know how to do that. We don't know where where to even start with that. We don't know how to do it safely. And so it was just not really something that they pursued for me because they didn't know how. And so I kind of jumped into it completely on my own, and I had to learn a lot of really hard lessons. So I would say the number one things that I had to learn probably were pertaining to safety, protecting yourself, having boundaries, vetting photographers, vetting jobs, vetting agencies, just kind of navigating through the industry and figuring out all the unspoken rules, kind of how you navigate through the industry. And like I said, I really had to learn everything by myself. So I'm very passionate about helping aspiring models and trying to teach them things that the hard lessons that I had to learn myself.
Yeah, it's really a tricky industry and can definitely be scary sometimes. I think there's a lot to learn in terms of one, how to navigate, but also how to stay safe and advocate for yourself, and also what boundaries are safe to cross and which ones you shouldn't cross, and trying to figure it out and figuring out kind of your niche and where you want to market yourself as a model.
And I think that navigating all of that and then retaining your passion or retaining your why is really important, because there's been times where different things have happened within my experiences as a model, and it's made me okay, do I actually want to do this? Is this something that I can see myself doing long term? And there's been times where I've taken a break and been I don't think this is for me. But it's the passion and the reason why I love to do it always comes back, and so it's I never could really step away from it. But if somebody's getting into it and they have some bad experiences, it might turn them away completely and make them not even want to pursue it further.
Yeah, that's completely understandable. And especially I feel like when you're coming from small town, Colstrip, Montana, and you don't know the industry, or wherever you're from that's maybe small, it's easy to get taken advantage of by others. And whether it's really heinous or unintentionally taken advantage of in more minuscule ways, it's still just something that it's hard for us small town folks to understand and know kind of the boundaries and kind of where to navigate. So I think it's really great to learn that, and I love that you're advocating for that. What is your biggest tip for new models looking to get started?
Oh, I don't even know where to start with that one. That's such a big question. I would say my biggest tip: find a really reputable, solid photographer, pay them, and go and work with them. I think how I kind of got into it was more working my way up, like collaborating with photographers. And I worked with a lot of people who were unprofessional, a lot of people who took advantage of the fact that I was naive and young and, kind of put me into uncomfortable positions. And just worked with people that didn't necessarily teach me anything. And like, if you're in Montana, I always recommend Eileen. Like, of course, if you're watching this, you're probably considering working with Eileen. I would 1,000 times recommend her because she's like creates a comfortable environment. She'll teach you about posing. She'll teach you like tips about the industry because, we're not gonna be able to cover everything that I could possibly say about the industry like in this interview, but I feel like you do a really fantastic job of during photo shoots, like educating models, whether it's like on how the industry works, how to get into the industry or posing, getting comfortable in front of the camera, all of that. So I would say find somebody who's really, really solid, pay them for their time, and like build up your book, and you're gonna get into the industry a lot quicker than if you just kind of try to like collaborate with photographers and you don't necessarily have the strongest portfolio, especially like in Montana. If you're trying to get signed in New York or LA, you're competing with models who are shooting with photographers regularly in New York and LA, the best fashion photographers in the country. So it's going to be difficult if you don't work with like people whose work, is up to the industry standard.
Yeah, that's actually a really big important word you just said, industry standard. The industry standard could definitely vary depending on your market, where you're at. Like here in Montana, it's a lot of like outdoor recreational looks and happy smiles. I think Arizona might be a little bit different. I'm not quite familiar with your market, but I know like in New York, the looks are very different. I just did a whole photo shoot for an agency out of New York, and it was very, very different. So I think being able to find photographers that will understand the market and can help build your portfolio for the markets you want to hit, or even just being able to build a versatile portfolio that can kind of touch on every market, even if it's just a little bit. I think that's really great to have. Absolutely. And just being able to find a photographer that does that. And here in Montana, that's a little tricky. There's not a lot of commercial photographers here. I know there's a few others, but they're pretty spread far between the whole state.
And like for me, if you want to be a model, like just having somebody that does family portraits or does graduation photos, like that's not going to contribute to your portfolio in the way that you want it to book high level work. It's just not, because they're doing something entirely different. Not to say that their work isn't great, but it's just not necessarily what you need for a modeling portfolio. So I feel like when you find your person that you can like really lock in with. Oh, my watch just spoke to me, sorry. So finding your person that you can like get really comfortable with, especially if you haven't done it before, like if you build that personal connection and you're able to kind of like get comfortable in front of the camera, it's going to really like open you up for future opportunities.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. How important is your portfolio? We're going to segue into that.
Your portfolio is everything. Like it's like your resume in the modeling world. I mean, you can't book with work without it. And if you have a portfolio that doesn't reflect the niche that either your look is best for, or your market, or where you're trying to go, you're not going to have any luck booking work. You're just not. They can love what you look like, but if you have terrible photos or no photos, you're not going to get booked. Like I said, especially like, I'm in Arizona, but I submit a lot for jobs in LA. And if my portfolio is not up to LA standards, there's no way I'm going to book work because there's 1,000 models in LA that are all submitting to that same job.
Yeah, I totally agree. And for the models that aren't sure what needs to go in their portfolio, what would you recommend as a starting point?
I would say it depends on your look, it depends on your market, but just like a general basis, like you need a little bit of some really bubbly commercial studio work, where you're really smiley, think like a Target or Kohl's ad. It's great to have some beauty work in there, especially if you're on the shorter side, because like anybody of any size can book beauty. And beauty work is very open to like diverse models, models with acne, like I said, models who are shorter, models on the curvier side. So, that's like, think Sephora, Ulta campaigns. and Eileen is amazing for all of those. If you're wanting to do boudoir, you know, that's something that you can have, but I don't feel like it's like absolutely essential. And that's kind of obviously more like definitely over 18, and I would probably say even over like 21. What else? Editorial is great to have in there as well, but editorial doesn't make as much money as commercial and beauty. And then if you want to do runway, like getting really good runway images, especially Getty images, can be really helpful for your portfolio, so that you can, you know, show that you've done runway before. So yeah, I would say that's a pretty well-rounded portfolio, like editorial, beauty, runway, and then like swim/lingerie, if that's what you're wanting to do. And if you're wanting to go into a market like Miami, or, you know, even there's some lingerie in New York, some lingerie in LA, some swim in LA. Not much swim in New York though.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a little too cold up there.
Yeah.
A little bit further south, it's a little more applicable. A lot more people are doing swimwear. Just, I think understanding kind of where you want to work or potentially move to, like Phoenix or Florida or Los Angeles or Chicago or New York, will really kind of determine how your portfolio should look. Because again, swimwear is not going to have much benefit in Chicago or New York, or, you know, somewhere north, or like secondary markets, really. So
yeah, and I think it's really important to not only like know what you want to do and where you see yourself, but also like where the industry sees you. Because if you have like super out there features, it's probably going to be hard for you to be a commercial model. It's probably going to be more likely that you're going to do a lot of editorial campaigns, and that might be your place. And so maybe you should kind of focus on that a little bit more. And not to say that you can't do a mix of everything, but I think like you'll have the most luck and success when you kind of figure out what the industry likes from you and deliver that.
Yeah, I think that's really great to think about, is kind of studying how you look. I mean, I think even looking at portfolios from agencies kind of in like the markets you want to hit, and kind of studying what they look like, or finding people who look similar to you and seeing what category they could potentially be in. I think that's a really great way to go about it.
Absolutely. And like finding, okay, so say you have a dream agency in a certain city, like finding the photographers that regularly shoot for that agency and working with them is like the top way that you can kind of get your foot in the door, because they're going to know and they're going to have the expertise and, you know, be able to like evaluate your look and kind of be able to cater that to that agency specifically. So I feel like that's the best way if you have an agency you really want to work with.
Yeah, I agree. What is the most memorable event you've been a part of?
I would probably say my first New York Fashion Week. It was just really cool because I had not booked any shows before I went out there, and I was really taking a big chance on myself by like investing the time and money into going out there and just going to castings and seeing what hit. And I was able to I think I walked for 5 different designers, and so it was just like a really cool experience to just see, like, when you take chances on yourself, see that hard work pay off. Yeah, and it was life-changing. I love runways so much. It's so fun. So, and then also, like, I had invested hundreds and hundreds of hours into developing my runway walk, and it has come a long way. Like, my walk initially was awful. It was so bad. I look back on videos and I'm just like, what was I doing? Like, I'm embarrassed that I even posted this on the internet. But so just seeing like how that hard work and investing that time and energy like really developed me and like took me to the next level. That was really cool. I would say that's probably one of the most memorable.
Awesome. I love that. I love that you invested in yourself too. I mean, because I think we all have to start somewhere, no matter what line of work or our passions fall into. But I think specifically pertaining to modeling, I think really investing in things, like you just said, your walk wasn't great, so you invested a lot of time into learning and practicing that, and now it's like so much better and it's beautiful. And there's a lot of things that models can definitely learn in the industry, and if they're really particularly interested in runway, that's something that I think they should invest in.
And I think a lot of people expect it to like be handed to them, and they expect like, well, I'm pretty, so they're just gonna pick me, and I'm pretty, so I'm just gonna book work, and if I do one photo shoot, I'm just gonna become a supermodel. Like, modeling is not like that. Modeling is not for the faint of heart. You have to invest a lot of time, money, energy, sanity. Like, you are gonna face so much rejection. You're gonna have so much adversity. There's gonna be a lot of rough moments, I can't lie, in modeling. However, it's going to shape you. And when you get 1,000 rejections and then you get one yes, like, that yes is going to mean so much more to you than the 1,000 rejections. Or it's going to mean so much more because of those 1,000 rejections. And so, like, when people tell me that they're interested in modeling and they ask for advice, and I kind of give them the game, and then I see like they don't really, like, they're like, oh, why isn't it working? It's like, well, you're not doing the work. Like, you have to work really hard as a model, and like you said, you have to invest into it. And if you're not willing to invest into it, and you just want to do it because you think you can make money because you look good, it's not probably going to be for you. You have to work really, really hard, but it's always worth it when you see it pay off in the end.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really important to invest and build and grow. And you're right. You can't just have a pretty face, because especially in the modeling industry, I feel like it's a sea of pretty faces.
Absolutely.
And you have to have the drive and the mentality to want it. And I think that's definitely something I think a lot of models should consider when they go into it and think about.
Absolutely.
So with that in mind, how do you balance your stress levels when being a full-time model and designer?
Honestly, like, my life as a model and designer is so much less stressful if I had a 9-to-5, because I'm just a creative. Like, if I was working a regular job, I would be so burnt out and exhausted and like unhappy. I feel like there's hard days, and being like a freelance creative can be tough sometimes, because it's like you never really get to rest. Like, I'm always working. I don't work a 9-to-5 because I work 24/7. But to me, like, it doesn't feel like a job, because I love it so much, and it's what really fuels me and inspires me. And so, like, I think just knowing that everything always works out, knowing that, I'm doing what I absolutely love, and just knowing that, like, when I work really hard, it always pays off, and that things always end up okay. That's kind of what helps me. And then, like, I have a really, really supportive partner who is also a freelance creative. And so that really, really helps, because, like, if there's rough times, like, I can just kind of talk to him and he gets it. So yeah, I would say it's not crazy stressful. Like, I have a relatively, like, stress-free life. I work out too, like, that definitely helps me relieve my stress going for runs and stuff. And then that's kind of a twofold thing, because it's like staying in shape for modeling is really a positive thing, and then the working out helps me relieve the stress from all of it. So yeah.
Awesome. I love to hear that. As a creative business owner myself, I totally understand. Well, sometimes there's stressful days, but it's pretty
for
rare.
sure.
I'd rather take that stress over a 9-to-5.
Exactly. That's like the hard times are so worth it, because there's the moments where I look up and I'm just like, my 10-year-old self would die to know that this is the life that I'm living right now. Like, that is always so humbling to me. I'll be like running downtown and I'll be like, I live in a city. Like, as a kid, I would have died to live in a city. That was all I dreamed of. So it's like balancing. I mean, there's high highs and there's low lows, and just figuring out how to like balance those and kind of ride the wave of like whatever feelings you're feeling.
Yeah.
And having a good support system.
Yeah, that's great advice, is to just feel it and ride the wave and have a support system. Always have a support system. I think no matter what, you need that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I think you answered my last question, but I do have a question off the top of my head. What is something you wish people would have told you, and what is a question that you wish people would ask you?
I think I wish I would have, I don't know if anybody could have told me this that would have changed my mind, but I really, really regret shooting boudoir and implied at such a young age. Like that was kind of the first photo shoots that I did. And it was a lot of like, I mean, you know what happened in that like span of time with all those different photographers in Montana. It was a mess, but there was a lot of photographers who really pressured me into shooting that kind of content, and that made me feel like that was what was going to take me to the next level as a model. And I just look back on it and it kind of makes me feel yucky, because it's like they were definitely taking advantage of the fact that I was an 18-year-old that didn't know anything about the modeling industry, that wanted to get into it. And now it's like none of that stuff benefit me whatsoever, and I just know it's on the computers of creepy male photographers. So that kind of sucks. Do I do boudoir now? Yeah. Do I have some stuff on my Instagram? Yeah. But I just wish, like, at such a young, formidable age, I wouldn't have done some of that stuff. But like I said, if somebody would have said, like, Kenna, don't shoot that stuff, I don't know if I would have listened to them. That was just kind of a lesson I had to, like, learn on my own and kind of experience myself. I wish people would ask, like, what can I do? Like, people ask, like, how do I get into the industry? And then you tell them, but then they never really, like, put in the work themselves to actually get there. So I guess, like, less of a what do I wish people would ask me, and more of a, like, I wish people would just kind of take the advice. Maybe a question that I wish that they would ask is, like, what things can I do to protect myself as a model? That's probably a big one, because people don't necessarily think of that. And I think people, they want to seem like they have it all figured out, even if they don't necessarily. And so I wish people would have more conversations about, like, hey, this happened in a photo shoot. Like, is that something that, like, is okay? Or, you know, oh, hey, this person told me that I can't bring somebody to the photo shoot. Like, is that normal? So I guess, like, I wish people would listen to their gut instincts and kind of ask questions about them, because I feel like that's something that would keep them safe, and prevent them from having negative experiences. I don't know. I feel like I, like, went all over the place for that question.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I'm just making sure we have enough questions for my little post. But no, that's a great answer, I think. I think we don't ask enough questions in regards to what's ethical and legal and safe. And as two people who are in this industry, we see it over and over again, women especially, but men too, getting taken advantage of in many different ways and over again. And especially the ones that get into it as teenagers, and everyone around them is saying it's okay to do kind of some of the things that I've seen that I don't think are appropriate.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe you might feel the same way. I think it's important to ask, you know, those questions. Like, is this doesn't seem okay to me? Is it okay? And to, like, trust your gut instincts.
Mm-hmm. And, like, I've heard stories, you know, from people that I know who, like, grew up in LA and started when they were really young, or, you know, just all this stuff that's coming out on the internet about all these celebrities. Like, it happens at every single level. The thing about this industry is there's a power imbalance between casting directors, between, like, super, super high level photographers, or, you know, at a lower level, maybe just photographers at all. I know of so many girls in Montana who had never modeled before, who just liked taking pictures, who had creepy men who I personally knew to be inappropriate with models, that reached out to them like, hey, do you want a free photo shoot? And they're kind of, like, dangling, you know, this opportunity over their heads, knowing that they can put those girls in uncomfortable positions, knowing that they can get what they want from those girls, whether it be inappropriate photos or touching them or whatever. So I just think, like, models really, really have to be very on guard and very cognizant of every situation that they put themselves into. I think, like, as a general safety rule, the first time that you meet with a photographer, you always need to bring somebody with you. I'm 22 and I've been in this industry for 4 years and I still do that. Like, I didn't do that at first, but now if I'm meeting somebody for the first time, I always bring somebody and I kind of temperature check. And if I feel comfortable with them, future shoots, I can go by myself as long as somebody knows where I'm at and what I'm doing and whatever. But if I don't feel comfortable, like, I'm always going to have somebody. And honestly, there's been times where I haven't brought somebody with me, but I always ask, is it okay if I bring somebody with me? Because if they say no, and I remember one of the very first people that I worked with in Montana was like, I hate when models bring, somebody to their photo shoot because it distracts them, and, they bring their boyfriend or their best friend and it's like they can't focus. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, so like, don't bring people to photo shoots because photographers don't like that. And now that I know what I know about this person, I look back and I'm like, that was them kind of like priming me and trying to like kind of groom me in a sense that it wasn't okay and that it was unprofessional, when really they were just trying to set themselves up so that they could do whatever they wanted during photo shoots. So I would say, like, it's super, super important. Make sure that somebody knows where you're going, somebody has your location, that you tell them, I'm going to be gone from this time to this time. Set up your phone and take BTS. They can't do anything weird if you have your phone recording. Don't let photographers touch you. Like, there's just all these different things, like, to keep in mind. Just be on high alert. And I know you're trying to be comfortable and you're trying to like let loose in front of the camera, and that might be kind of tough when you are also trying to keep a watchful eye, but just do everything that you can to protect yourself, because there's a lot of predators in this industry, and there's a lot of people who feel like they have power because they have a camera and are going to try to utilize that to take advantage of situations. And so just protect yourself and be smart.
Yeah, I agree. Ask questions, and always bring someone with you, and just do whatever you can to stay safe. If your instincts say something's off, trust it, really.
Exactly. I remember, like, before I went to New York one time, my dad told me, he said, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And like, there have been so many situations where I've heard my dad's voice telling me, like, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And I listen to that. And like, for me, I really firmly believe that whatever's meant for me will not miss me. Whatever's meant for me will come to me. And so if you have to get yourself out of a situation because you feel uncomfortable and you have a gut instinct, even if there's nothing that seems rational, trust your gut, because your gut will always know what's up. And just know that whatever's meant for you is not going to miss you. And so if you're missing some opportunity because you feel uncomfortable, it's probably not an opportunity that you actually want. You're probably going to put yourself on the path that's going to take you to where you need to be, not to where you're uncomfortable being.
Yeah, great advice. I do want to end it on a happier question.
Yes.
What is your favorite subject or area to model in?
I would say runway, even though it doesn't really pay the most. There's just something about, like, especially now that I'm a designer, just seeing the hard work that designers put into a collection for months and months. You'll have a 8-hour day of getting makeup done, fittings, hair, practicing your walk, practicing on the runway, doing all of this stuff just for 10 seconds on the runway of showcasing that piece. And it's such a privilege to get to take a designer's creative vision and bring it to life. And I mean, me, like, on the runway, like, I'm not just going to do your standard walk. Like, I'm going to be extra and animated and bring it to life and do whatever I can to, like, really make it an iconic moment. And so I just love the creative freedom that brings. And it's almost like acting in a sense, like just being able to put on this character and go out on the runway and just live in that moment. And it's like, it's the biggest adrenaline rush in the world. I love it so much. And you get off and you're just like, can I do that like 20 more times? So yeah, I would say runway is definitely my favorite. I wish that I was able to do it more often and that it paid more, but I take every chance that I can. Even if it's like an unpaid show, sometimes I'll just pick things up just because I'm like, my soul needs it.
Good. Yeah, I love that. I love the adrenaline rush that you get. And I, of course, haven't done runway, but I've heard so many girls say they get an adrenaline rush. And I love your view of it, that it's like you're a character, and I love that. I think that's so fun. Okay, well, Kenna, thank you so much. Thank you so much for hopping on here and answering some questions. I love to see what you're doing down there in Arizona. I love seeing you just soar creatively with your modeling and your design business. If you guys want to check her out, I will link her Instagram and go give her a follow.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye.